along. It has really transformed me. Neuro-linguistic programming, programming brain through language.
It has transformed my personality. When I say that, I'm still the same persona or person that people might think I am, but the way I react to the same situation is completely different than it used to be.
हैरान रह गया कि उस एक कोर्स के अंदर जहां साइकोलॉजी भी इन्वॉल्व थी, एनएलपी भी थी, हिप्नोसिस भी था, उसमें बहुत सारी दूसरी चीजें भी थी.
One of the best decisions of my life, one of the best times of my life.
Pehle, perhaps you would be just sitting and depressed and anxious, and now I'm up and about. I changed my pattern and all of that, so I'm quick with that.
The uniqueness Kamran bhai ki trainings mein hai wo ye hai कि when you go through these trainings, during the trainings ही आपके अंदर transformation हो जाती है.
मुझे यूँ लग रहा है कि जैसे मेरी सारी स्टडी एक तरफ और आज के ये 7 दिन जो है ये बिल्कुल ही मैं एक नया जो है लेसन या एक्सपीरियंस लेके जा.
I transformed as a human being, as a mother. मेरी parenting बहुत improve हुई with my daughters.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. We will start just in a moment. Welcome to this session. Which technical errors somehow aati rehti hai towards the beginning of things. So I've just sent an email. I received some messages from people who are having some difficulties in joining over Zoom. So I've just sent an email. Hopefully they'll see. And I also sent messages to people, just in case if anybody has any problem, they can join on YouTube. For today, we are going live on YouTube as well. So they can join there. And inshallah, we will start. So I see there are a number of people here. Welcome everyone, welcome. And I would like to know, where are you from before we begin? Thoda sa aap logon ka ek brief sa agar ek introduction ho, so that would be nice. It's good to know because the online sessions hote hain, there's one of the challenges in these sessions is like you just keep speaking in front of a camera, okay, hoping that there is someone on the other side of the camera, other side of the screen, and is listening and paying attention. Which of course their other mind is always there listening and paying attention, but their conscious mind may not be. So I just like to know both their conscious and their unconscious minds are involved. So I like to see who I am talking to. And when I begin these sessions, even though when you receive my messages, there is we'll do this, and I don't have anything specific in mind, because depending on who's in front of me and what would be most useful for you, I actually customize my presentations. It's like I don't like to use slides a lot, even though in online courses it makes things easier, so I use them. But for these kind of live sessions, I like to see who's in front and then customize things for you to make it more easier, more accessible for everyone. So I see Javeria from Karachi. Welcome. Ramesa from Rasul Khaima. Welcome. Uzma, Karachi. Aisha from Karachi. And then Fiza from Karachi. Walia from Karachi. Walaikum Assalam. Naeem from England. And Waqas, Birmingham. Yasmin, Tabassum. Yasmin, your certificate is in Karachi. I'll send you a message. Junaid, Saad, Rabia, Faisal. Walaikum Assalam, Uruj. So from Hyderabad. Okay, great. So we have people from many different places. And I believe even if you're watching it on YouTube, do let me know. I'll be reading your comments on YouTube and responding to your questions on YouTube. I am, checking YouTube at the same time as I'm speaking with you. So I see Rahim Art Corner. So this is Nida Aziz from Karachi, and then Uzma Mustafa from Karachi, and Khalid. Good to know you are here, Khalid. Where have you disappeared? Siraj ul Haq from Karachi. Oh, good, Siraj. So, and everyone else who's on YouTube as well, please do introduce yourself. It would be nice to know who I am addressing, who I am talking to. So please do let me know. So हमारे जो program है, this is a 3 days training. This is not a 1 day program, and this is not a sales training either. Okay, I'm not selling you anything. I may be showing you some of my ads in the beginning, or even if we take a break. But the idea for this program is for next 3 days, we will be looking deeper into the definition of neuro, linguistic, and programming. So for today's session, we'll be talking about neuro. Okay, since there are 3 things, neuro, linguistic, and programming. So for today, we will first talk about neuro. Okay. My little understanding about mind and how the mind works and what are different functions it does, how you program it. We'll not be doing any exercises today. We'll be just understanding our minds first. Before we start programming this thing we call mind or our brain, we want to understand what is it that we are programming, okay? How it works, what it takes. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll talk about linguistics, communication. The role of communication, the central piece in NLP is linguistics. So what's the role that the linguistics, the language plays in neuro-linguistic programming? That's what we'll be talking about tomorrow. And then on the third day, we'll talk about programming, learn some of the techniques, those of you who have trained with me earlier, I'm not about, teaching techniques. Techniques is a very, very, very small part of NLP. Unfortunately, most people who don't know NLP, they just think NLP is about techniques. So they want to learn this technique and that technique. If I share something, they say, oh, this is anchoring, this is collapsing anchors, this is swish. Okay. It's not about techniques. That's a mistake. It's like if somebody says NLP is about techniques, it's like saying, becoming a doctor is like knowing paracetamol or Panadol, it's like Tylenol or, the painkillers. Techniques are very, very small part of the whole training. Okay. In my NLP practitioner training, it's like 70 hours of training. So, the techniques are like probably 3 hours. Okay. And before all of that, you need to have some skills. Once you have these skills, you can create techniques, you can alter or, change techniques. So those of you who are new here, who have no idea what NLP is, very briefly, NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. Now, on my YouTube channel, you will find there are over 575 videos. There are several on this specific topic, what is NLP? So I'll not go into a lot of details in this session specifically, but if you want, you can check my YouTube channel. There are many videos for you. You can watch them. There's a lot of information on my website, first-institute.com. There are free courses. There's a complete free online training on my YouTube channel. It's called NLP in the Light of Islam. Interestingly, I've been doing this for like almost 30 years now. I'm like teaching for almost 30 years now. And I keep coming across people who, come up with these ideas. This is haram, this is not right, this is against Islam and all kind of things. And people keep sending me fatwas about this, this mufti has said this. And interestingly, just last week, somebody also sent me out, there's this fatwa about NLP. This is not right, this is against Islam. And I just pointed out to that person. I said, do you know, this fatwa itself uses NLP to deny NLP. The thing is, they don't have any idea what they're doing, and they come up with some ideas. So this was the reason about more than a year ago in Ramzan, I did a 30 days program specifically called NLP in the Light of Islam. Like anybody can watch that. Okay, I just say, honestly, if you want to give a judgment about anything, at least know the basics. I've had hundreds of discussions probably with people about saying, oh, hypnosis is against Islam, hypnosis is haram. Okay. And when people say those kind of things, I say, you're right. Okay. I don't argue with that. Okay. You say it's wrong, it's haram, I accept. Okay. Now just give me the basic definition of what hypnosis is. And I've never come across a single person who would give me the basic definition of hypnosis while giving this judgment that it's haram or it's against Islam. All they were talking about were things which they have seen in some, suspense movies or read in some, suspense novels. Nothing based on science or facts or anything else. I've had these discussions with people. Even here, somebody was like, you know what? Hypnosis uses people who do hypnosis, they use jinns. I said, really? American Medical Association and British Medical Association approved of hypnosis as a form of therapy in 1955 and 1957. So that means that they have approved use of hypnosis and jinns for therapy. Cool. American Medical Association believes on use of jinn. What are you talking about? If you read some basic information, you will understand. So I'll not get into that. Just to give you some ideas, I'm sharing this information. So NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro refers to your nervous system, all of the information that you have in your brain, what you call your thoughts, your thinking, all the thinking that's going on in your brain. And everything that you're processing is over your five senses. You have sights, sounds, touch, smell, taste. Okay. All the information that you and I are processing is right there inside our brains through these five senses. And we use language to express our thoughts. So NLP has some beliefs. One of them is language is a literal representation of what people do inside their heads. So linguistic refers to communication, which includes both interpersonal and intrapersonal communication. Now, interpersonal communication that you have with someone else, intrapersonal communication, the communication you have with your own self, what you call your thinking. Something happens and you just start thinking about it. Something happened a long time ago and you think about it. And so your communication and its effects on your behavior. So NLP basically studies the effect of language in communication on behavior. And patterns basically refers to those, ways of behaving, those patterns of thinking, those patterns of behavior that you and I do, okay, on regular basis. Because we've done that something so many times, it's become we are programmed to operate that way. So it's like, this is something second nature. So somebody asked us, I'm very shy. And it's like, how do you know? Oh, I am, I'm always that way. You were not born shy. Have you ever heard this? Like somebody says, we have a very fearful child. Okay? A very shy child is born in our family. Have you ever heard that? You wouldn't hear that. But people learn a lot of things. Okay, yes, some people have different characteristics, but that doesn't mean that they have that characteristic all the time. There are people who talk about different personality types. People keep sending me messages saying, I am A, B, C, D. They send me all of these, and this is like, I am this type. And I said, do you know? This is like saying I'm a Virgo, or I'm a Capricorn, or I'm a Leo. And now Leo has these characteristics, and Capricorns have these characteristics. It's as valid as saying that. People have been trying to make sense of why people do what they do, and they keep coming up with all of these different ideas, different models. So at one time people believe that because you were born under such and such star, that's why you have these characteristics. Then people keep coming up with newer and newer things, and somebody came up with this idea that you have this type, introvert personality types, extrovert. All of those things have some truths and a lot of untruths, because these are all different models. These are huge generalizations. So NLP mainly studies why people do what they do and how we can change what we want to change. Okay. And now, since it's about changing things in your head, so let's first understand what this head is doing. So your brain It's divided into two portions mainly, left hemisphere and right hemisphere. And there are some old theories that your left brain is more, logical, analytical, critical, and your right brain is more imaginative. And, whenever imagination and conflict, your imagination and your will are in conflict, your imagination always wins. Okay, just understand this. So, for example, let's imagine that I have this thick and like maybe a 12 or 15 feet long plank of wood, and I ask you, and I place that on the floor, and I ask you to walk on it, you'll be able to walk on it. Okay. And if I place it on, between two chairs and I ask you to walk on it, you will be able to walk on it. You know that. Okay. And now I take that same plank and place it between two big buildings and say on the 20th floor. And now I ask you to walk on it. Now your logic will tell you, you have walked on this. This is strong enough. This is sturdy. It can hold you. But your imagination will show you something else. And I don't know many people who would still be willing to walk because their imagination will take over their logical understanding. Okay, so whenever imagination and logic are in conflict, imagination always wins. So sometimes we have things in our mind, what we call thoughts, and we are imagining things which are, causing us to feel good. And sometimes we have things which are causing us to feel bad. And when we are feeling bad, so, we may be feeling fear, we may be feeling anxiety, we may be feeling depressed, we may be feeling sad. When we are feeling bad, we make bad decisions. You will not find people who say, it's like I made such a good decision while I was feeling bad. I divorced my wife because she was looking so beautiful. I just divorced her. You will not find that. People make bad decisions, do bad things when they are feeling bad. When they're angry, they make bad decisions. When people are feeling good, they make good decisions. But what they don't realize is what they're actually feeling is their own thinking. And that thinking is the processing going on in their heads. So our mind, the brain, is the physical organ. It's like sometimes people ask, what's the difference between a brain and a mind? Okay, so here's the simplest way to understand. So your brain is the physical organ, okay, like your computer is a physical thing, but then it needs a software in order to operate. So that mind is that software that keeps it going. If that software is not there, you may have the most sophisticated equipment, but if the software is not there, it will not work. So that mind is this software operating inside. And that software sometimes gets corrupted. That software sometimes needs updates. That software, and just think about this. We buy a mobile phone and we want to make sure we have the most updated apps. We have the most updated operating system. Do we ever update our thinking as well? It's like I see people who learned something of fear when they were 5 years old, and now they're in their 50s and still have the same fear. So they've never updated. Isn't this sad? Like, you never update yourself. You keep updating your mobile phone. You keep updating your laptop every few years. You want to change that, but people don't work on this. And that's how many times people get stuck in their lives. So this mind, there are many different portions of this. If we, without going into a lot of details, neurosciences has been doing a lot of research. Neuroscientists have been doing a lot of researches on the human brain and to understand, and it has so many parts, but mainly it has like 3 parts. So we have what we call the reptilian brain and the midbrain and the frontal brain. Okay, just to make things very simple. The reptilian brain is the same brain that is in every reptile. Okay, so you share that part of your brain with the lizard, the same lizard that sometimes people are afraid of. Okay, it shares the same brain with you. And that reptilian brain has certain programs. And those programs generally are programs. So when you're in a stress situation, you have these fight, flight, or freeze, or fold kind of responses. It's like, so when people are stressed, they either want to fight back or they want to run away. So when you have this feeling, in a certain situation, this could be a presentation coming up for some person. This could be an argument with some people. Some people may have difficulty in dealing with people of authority. Some people may have difficulty in, going in certain situations. Some people find it difficult when the police stops them on the road. So when that happens, you want to run away. It's the reptilian brain operating. Okay. So this reptilian brain has these programs of fight, flight, run away. Okay. And when you hear a friend saying those kind of things, I just can't take it anymore. I just want to go away from this. I just want to run away from this. Sometimes it happens in relationships. Sometimes it happens in careers. So the brain, at that time, the person is operating from this reptilian mindset. Okay. The reptilian brain is taking over. And fight, flight, freeze, and fold. Okay. You just want to hide. I don't want to face anyone. Just close all the lights and just switch off. I just want to disconnect from the world. Okay. In those moments, you're operating from the reptilian brain. Then the next is, again, it has, as I said, right and left. So there are different functions on each side, but I'm like, let's call this midbrain. So this midbrain has two main kinds of functions. One of them is programs which are related to your survival, the basic programs that you and I have come up with. When we came in this world, our survival was entirely dependent on some other people. It's like if some people had not fed us, we would have died. If they had not changed our clothes, we would have, we wouldn't be able to do anything. We were entirely, completely, as human species, we were completely and totally dependent on other humans for our survival. But survival mechanism is one of the, if you have seen, I've tested with many children, but if you notice, even an infant, a newborn, when they are born, I remember when my first daughter was born, and mashallah, she's 23 now, but when she was born, I took her in my lap, with my hands like this, and she was like very tiny, small, and you know what? She grabbed my collar. I was like, who taught her this? She's just like here for a few hours only, and like she's holding my collar. How is that? Because there is this built-in program. It's like, so when you buy your phone, there's a built-in operating system in it. And that operating system, you don't have built-in WhatsApp, you don't have built-in Zoom, but there's a built-in operating system over which is required in order for your mobile to function, for your laptop to function. If you don't have the operating system, it will not work. So one of the operating system with which we come in this world, okay, involves our survival mechanism. Okay, we were born to survive. Now think about this. Have you ever had this experience that, if you're a woman and you're cooking something and, you cut your finger and you didn't notice that, or you burn your hand and you didn't notice that, or if you're a man, you were like shaving and you had a cut and you didn't notice that until a day or 2 days later, only after it was healed without you doing anything. How did that happen? How did that healing take place? Because Allah Ta'ala has designed us that way. This body is designed to heal itself, to go back towards what is considered normal. It's, Allah has designed us that. Our designer has designed us that way. Okay. So that healing is a natural process. The problem is, just think about this. If somebody has a cut and it starts to heal, And rather than allowing it to heal, people start scratching and then keep scratching it again and again. And then they say, I don't know why it's not healing. I've been scratching it every now and then, but it's not healing. Can you help? Okay. What should I do? The first thing you do is stop scratching yourself. Let it take its time. In exactly the same way, when people have emotional cuts, they just keep on scratching. They just keep on scratching and then say, I don't know why it happened many years ago, but I can't still take, I don't understand why I still feel that pain. Even though that person has died, he has passed away, but I still feel the pain for that person saying this. Because you're scratching it. That's it. Okay. You never gave yourself time to settle. Okay. So your brain needs settlement. It's like needs to settle down. You need to stop scratching in order to get healing. Does this make sense? By the way, I'm just speaking and I have no idea if you're getting it or not. So let me know if it makes sense so far. Okay. I see some yeses here. Good. So let me check the YouTube audience as well at the same time. Because, on YouTube, you get it like, I think 10, 15 seconds delay. के बाद, so they will start saying yes after 15 seconds. So anyway, so I hope they're also getting it. So that survival mechanism is one of the mechanism that's a built-in thing. Okay. Now, so when we are born, as we said, in the early days, we are completely and totally dependent on other people. And so there are a number of things that we learn. Since this has to be done in within 90 seconds, I'll not go into a lot of details, but there's a lot of things that happen. One of the things that happen is this. When you're young, you say something or you do something which is right, correct, according to people taking care of you. Okay, this could be your elders, your parents, whoever they may be. And if you do something which is correct according to them, according to their understanding, you get rewarded. Acha bacha, achhi bachi, good boy, good girl. Okay, so your behavior was reinforced. And if you did something, I did something, every one of us, in fact, we do that with our children as well. Okay. So they do something and, we don't like it or our elders didn't like it. They reprimanded us. They punished us. Okay. They said, ganda bacha, gandi bachi. So we learn to associate pleasure or positive feelings to things that were rewarded and pain to things that were not rewarded. Okay. So, and we learn that if we do things that please other people, it's a reward. And if we do things that displease other people, it's a pain. Even though what we were doing to, that displeased other people was something we wanted to. We were expressing ourselves. We were being totally honest. But when that happened, our brain learned a program, a pattern. And that pattern was people pleasing. It's how people become people pleaser. Now that program is operating in the back of their mind. Remember, it's just like, I often use this phrase. This is an Urdu phrase, Umar bachpan ki dil bachpan ka. Okay. So they have grown up physically, but mentally they are still operating from that. I was like, I have to please people. लोगों के लिए कुछ तो करना पड़ता है, ऐसा तो नहीं है ना, भाई जाहिर है आपने, you have to be very careful. खानदान वालों के लिए तो करना पड़ता है जी, ठीक है जी, वो होगी जी, हाँ मुझे पता है जी, वो है शरीयत में ये चीज ठीक नहीं है, मुझे मालूम है, वो अल्लाह के रसूल का हुक्म तो है, लेकिन क्या करें जी, मजबूरी है, खानदान के लिए करना पड़ता है. Because even though intellectually person knows, but in the back of their mind there is this program that says you have to please people in order to be accepted. Okay, so this people pleasing becomes part of many people's personality. Okay, that's one of the program that starts operating. And there are many other things. As I said, there's not enough time. Now, then what happens is when we grow up a little, and we find that there are other people around as well. Now we start going to the school or to madrasa or to any educational system, or we go out and then we find it's like there are other people, there are other things, so there are certain rules and regulations we have to follow. So, two kinds of things happen. One of the things that happen with people, and I can remember, I'm not going into a lot of details here. Okay, so there will be gaps in this for you, and I want you to have those, by the way. So you have this curiosity to fill up those gaps, because one of the things that human nature, I think Aristotle or Socrates said this: nature abhors vacuum. So if we can create those vacuums, that you have this desire to learn and to fill those vacuums for yourself, that will be good for you. So anyways, what happened was, as we found that there are other people, and then there are certain rules we have to follow, certain regulations we have to follow. Brain also learns to operate in two directions. One of them is, sometimes some people, have this, I am somebody, I'm better than others. Okay, I'm the son of so and so, or the father, or the member of such and such family or such and such clan. I am something, I am somebody. And some people may develop, I'm nobody. Okay, who am I? I'm just no one. They are good, I'm bad. Or somebody, I'm good and they're bad. So these are two extremes. Of course, there are many different, there are many different shades, but I'm talking about like two different ends. So in this process, people may develop some extreme pride or extremely low self-esteem. So that's where, the arrogance, or, you can call it pride for simplicity's sake, or low self-image or low self-esteem comes in. Those are like programs which are being installed in those early years in your brain, my brain, everyone's brain. And remember, there are everything in between as well. Now, another thing that happens is, through some experiences, people may develop trust or distrust. Okay, so this trust and distrust, so some people may develop blind trust on others, and some people may blind distrust on other people. And those are also the programs that are, through those early years, are installed in our brains. Now, then the other programs, and remember, when I say midbrain, we have memories and we have experiences, learning-based experiences. So we learn a number of different things about ourselves becoming better, about ourselves becoming more human, more humble, more kind, or even more fearful. Okay, so there are many different possibilities. There are many different possible things that can happen with people. Okay, so as we get into this next phase, next stage, through our memory, we also learn what is called our intrinsic motivations. I don't know if everybody understands. A lot of times people think that motivation is something that comes from outside. Once I get this job, I'll be motivated, if this happens or if that happens. Okay. And people try to motivate people in businesses. People try to motivate people by giving them external rewards. But the true motivation is what comes from inside. Okay. And once you have that intrinsic, deeper motivation to do something, you'll find it will be easier for you to continue, even though when there are challenges. So, in those early years, the other programs that you and I have learned are the programs which relate to our motivations, and our intrinsic motivations, according to the neuroscientists, they're fixed. But our extrinsic motivations, they keep on evolving. So as a child, a cup of ice cream was motivating enough for you to take action. A small toy was a motivation enough to take action, or maybe a loud noise was enough to stop you from taking action. But as you grew older, with time, those external motivations change. Now if somebody tells you, I'll give you an ice cream, some people like me may go for it, but depending on what they're offering, what's at stake, just a cup of ice cream may not be enough for us, because our values have shifted. We have learned new things. And this is also the time, where our initial passion, they keep occupying us. So for example, if you've noticed, young children, they they have this passion about a toy or a game, and these days these devices, okay, they're just in on these devices all the time. They're on this because that's what their brains have learned. Their brains have learned to associate good feelings to those activities. And so our brains learned something different. Just yesterday, a brother made a comment. I was here in a masjid, and a brother made a comment, and he said, he's like, these days children, they just spend time on their devices all the time. They're doing things on their devices. And, what we should do about this. But the thing is this, my little understanding on this issue is that, people want some stimulation. And in our times, when we were young, we were stimulated by some other things. So we had one channel on television, but when I was young, in addition to television, we also had some, Game and Watch. Yeah, if those of you who are from my era would know what I'm talking about, then there were other things, but we had some devices at that time as well. I used to play for, Game and Watch for hours and hours and hours. And until my mother or my father stopped me, I was on my game. And sometimes until the battery wears off, I was on that. So there were other devices. Before us, our elders may have, maybe television or maybe Ludo or maybe Carom, but they had their ways of stimulating themselves. Now, people before that may have, other ways of stimulating themselves. So basically, the brain needs that stimulation. We are looking for that stimulation. Okay. And in order to stimulate, these days, children get involved in these devices. Okay. This is just new era. It's not the same era that we have grown up in. This is not the same thing that we used to do, but they are doing in their own ways. Okay. Now, the third part of the brain is the frontal lobe. Okay. And in the frontal lobe of your brain, my brain, is where the possibilities reside, is where the intellect resides. Okay. So, Urdu mein wo kehte hain ji chauda matha, it's like zahin logon ki nishani chauda matha. Okay. I don't think ऐसी कोई चीज है, but this frontal lobe is basically where all of your possibilities happen, where your creative activities happen, where you start seeing solutions. Now, for an untrained mind, we do not have a conscious control over which portion of our brain takes over. Okay. So for an untrained mind, this is like you're driving a car and the gear shifts automatically. So sometimes brain goes into reptilian mode. Sometimes it goes into that survival mode. Sometimes it gets into this. Okay. So it just shifts on, on its own. But if you have taken proper training and if you have conditioned your brain to operate in a certain manner, you will find it will have more of those programs working in it than the programs that are there by default. Okay. So because we have never learned to do it deliberately, we think that, it just happens to us. And most of us, unfortunately, live their lives as passive people. It's like as if they have no control over whatever is happening in their lives. They have no control. It's like I come across so many people who say, I feel like this. And somebody just a few days ago, I was talking to a brother and he said, you should do some programs for children. I said, you know what? I do all of my programs for children. And he said, what do you mean? I said, because there's a difference between physically growing up and actually growing up. Because, people cannot control, growing up physically. But within that old looking man, I've seen many children. Okay. So as I said, Umar Pachpan ki dil bachpan ka. So the person might look 55 years old, but the inside of that person is like 5 years old. So I work with children. And what do I mean by that? The programs that the person has learned in their early years of their lives, they have not changed much. They have not upgraded. They have not consciously not done anything. So they may think, I have changed, I have grown up, but they're still operating from same emotional baggage. They're operating from the same mindset that they had learned in the early years of life. It's just the way that they're doing is different. It's like in like today, children, they're doing things differently. The way they're stimulating is different, but they're doing the same thing that we used to do. Here's another basic example. When we were young, we used to feel hungry and we needed food to eat. Now, is there any age after which we say, okay, now I'm done eating and I don't need food anymore? Does that ever happen? Is there any age at which we say, okay, I'm done drinking water. Now I don't need water anymore? Does this happen? Do you know anyone like this? Let me know if type yes or no. No, of course. Okay. Now, just as our bodies need food and drink to live, to survive, our internal system needs some stimulation, needs some. But what happens, just imagine, if you are eating the same food that you used to eat when you were 5 years old, 3 years old. Would you wear the same clothes that you used to wear when you were 3 years old or 5 years? Okay. Most likely you won't. You also know, no, they'll not even fit me. But we do the same behaviors, same patterns of thinking that we had learned. We had learned to please people. So at that time, we had learned to be quiet is better than to speak up. We had learned to shy away is better than to show up. We had learned to say yes, even though we wanted to say no, is better than saying no when we want to say no. And honestly, if you look at yourself, can you relate to what I'm saying? Do you sometimes find yourself doing these behaviors? And you know what? It may appear to you, and you may have this thing that you may say to yourself, I am like that. But remember, you were not born like that. You have learned and behaved like that. You have learned certain behaviors and you're just operating from those behaviors. That is the program that needs upgrading. Okay. So when people say it's like my life has changed, my life has transformed, all they have done is they've upgraded. They've upgraded to the age that they are in. So here's a big difference between, and my understanding about being a child and being an adult. Children do things that feel right to them. Adults do things that are right for them, even though they don't feel like doing it. Children do things that they feel like doing. Adults do things that they know are right for them, even though they don't feel like doing it. So, for example, a child would say, oh, I want an ice cream because I feel like having an ice cream. An adult may say, I feel like having an ice cream, but ice cream is not healthy for me, so I'll not have it. I don't feel like exercising, but exercise is good for me, so I will exercise. Notice that difference? So if I say it in Urdu, बच्चे वो काम करते हैं जो काम उनको करना अच्छा लगता है. उर्दू की कहावत है ना, मीठा मीठा हप हप कड़वा कड़वा थू थू. तो बच्चे वो काम करते हैं जो काम करना उनको अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन जो बड़े जो एडल्ट्स होते हैं वो काम करते हैं जो काम करना उनके लिए अच्छा होता है. See that distinction now? Okay. So do you find yourself doing things or not doing things because you don't feel like doing it? You know that something is good for you, but you just don't feel like doing it, so you don't do it. Say yes or no. It's okay. Because in order for us to, solve any problems or do any kind of change, we have to recognize, yeah, I have this. There's nothing wrong with this, by the way. Everyone does that. We are all human. We have all grown up or, brought up in a similar kind of way. We depended on other people. So we all have learned. But if we live with this denial, no, there's nothing. I don't do that. Are you being honest with yourself? So, it's like doing things that are right for me. And I think, it's like, so being a Muslim, I follow a certain belief system. I know one of the things that I have to do is I have to follow what Allah has told me. I have to follow what His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has told me. And I have to stop myself from doing what Allah and His Messenger have stopped me from doing. Now, I feel like doing it, but I consciously decide using my intellect, I may not understand the logic behind it. It may be very appealing for me to do, but I consciously decide not to do it. So it's a conscious decision. And we all do that too, I'm sure. So it's not that we are just doing things all the time, but if you look at it in certain situations, in some contexts, we may be operating from this and not in the other. So it's not that, there is anyone who's perfectly childish and perfectly adult. We do both. The important thing is having this conscious understanding and conscious knowing what you use when. Okay. So it's like when my nafs is telling me to do something, I consciously decide not to do it. When my nafs tells me to show my anger, I consciously decide to not do it. I remember Hazrat Ali Razila Ta'ala anhu ki jo ek वाकया था, he was in fight with a Jew, and Hazrat Ali Razila Ta'ala anhu uske upar aa gaye, and usne he spit on him, and Hazrat Ali stopped, and he stopped because he said, if I was fighting for Allah, but when he spit, I felt angry. And if I had killed him, I would be for my anger and not for Allah. Okay. That's the highest level. We cannot reach that. I don't think so. But that's what I'm talking about. Knowing when to stop, even though I know there is this thing telling me to do it, but I'm stopping myself. Okay. And that to do that, we must understand exactly what we are doing here first. Okay, what's happening inside. Until we don't know that, and until we recognize we are doing it, we won't be able to do it. So that's the first thing. So I hope you are understanding all of this so far. Is there any question before we proceed? You can type your questions if you have any question. So I see some comments on YouTube. Somebody has made a comment. This is something that we discussed just a few minutes ago. And it says, I'm scratching my mother's death since last 2 years. May Allah grant your mother, Jannah. And the thing is this, if you think about this, if you really love your mother, and the best thing that you can do for her is just pray. Okay. And we hope that she's in a better place than she was, in a better position than she was. Okay. She'd be happy. And just think about this. Would your mother want you to keep scratching? If you think about this, and it's like, would she want you to be sad and keep scratching and, feeling bad because she's not there in your life anymore? Or would she want you to be happy? So Wasim has a question. How can we change our habits? Wasim, please keep your questions related to what we are discussing today. Okay. So we'll talk about these things in the last session. Ask me if a question, you have a question about whatever I've shared so far. Remember, focus. Okay. Focus is such an important thing. That's one of the problems that people have. We lose our focus and we don't realize what's happening. So stay focused. If you have a question, okay, can you explain frontal lobe a bit more? So the frontal lobe, basically, it's the frontal part of your brain. Okay, this front part of your brain is what is termed as frontal lobe, and this frontal lobe is responsible, or for the functions like making you, when you're solving complex problems, when you're coming up with creative ideas, when you're using your intuition, when you are thinking in terms of possibilities, you're using your frontal lobe. So one way to to activate it is by thinking in terms of possibilities. Many years ago, probably more than 30 years ago, I read a book. Well, I think it was Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. So the author, he wrote something. It was about possibility thinking. Okay. So rather than thinking about problems, thinking about solutions. And one way to do that is by asking yourself questions, which are inherent in them, built in them, are possibilities. So, for example, when you get into a problem, let's say somebody gets into financial problem, one possible way to respond to a financial problem: why does this happen to me? Why am I so unlucky? And other possible response to that is, how can I improve my finances even though situation isn't good for me right now? What can I do to improve my financial conditions even though things are not going well right now? What are the options for me? And when you do that, here's another thing. If previously we have practiced something, so our previous programming will say, oh, you can't do anything. There is no hope for you. There is no chance for you, because that's the previous programming. Okay, you'll experience that kind of resistance if you've done the other thing more. But if you force yourself a bit, you will find you will start coming up with solutions, with ideas, do some brainstorming. And when you do that, you will be utilizing your creativity, your possibility thinking, your intuition will start getting better. So, that's how you'll be utilizing your frontal lobe. I hope that gives you some more idea. So Ramesa said, how can we stop these scratching thoughts coming in our minds? What if you just don't, if you just recognize them as thoughts? I often say the problem is not that you and I think. The problem is we think what we are thinking is real. In my one-to-one sessions with people come and it's like, I have this thought, I know this thought and that thought. And I said, okay, can you just quickly send me a selfie with your thought? This is burdening my mind. I say, okay, can you just send me a picture of this thing that's burdening your mind? It's not the thing that's burdening your mind. It's by thinking about something you're burdening your mind. It's like, think about this. You turn your television on, and there's a program that you don't like. Can you not like switch off the television or at least change the channel? Like, just because there's a program on television, do you have to see it? If you're sitting at a train station and a train is coming and going again and again, just because there's a train on the platform, do you have to get on it? Can you not just be sitting there and let it pass? So observe your thoughts, okay, and realize there's this beautiful saying. It's like, you are not your thoughts. You are the one doing the thinking. And in NLP, we say, dissociate yourself from those things. And we are not doing this today. Inshallah, we'll do that on the third day. You'll understand it better. But you need to dissociate yourself from that. Once you, step away from those things, it's like, again, many times people say, step away from this, forget. And the question is, how do I do that? NLP teaches you that. How do you do that? Okay. How do I forget something? Step away. How do I step away? Okay. That's what you will learn. So that's about programming. We'll do that. So right now, what you can do is you can just become an observer of your own thoughts. Okay. Observe whatever things are going on in your head. Okay. So let me just have a quick look at YouTube again. If there are any questions. I don't see questions on YouTube. Okay. So Rabia Tahir has a question. She says, like, how to convince our brains to bring a thing which seems totally impossible to me? Practice. Okay. Always, practice smaller things, little things. First start, conditioning and focusing on the right things. There is, it's like there's no one specific answer that I can give you right now because I don't know your situation from your question, I don't know exactly what you are talking about and what your condition is, because it's different from every person. When I work with people, I need to know, exactly where the person is. Only then I can guide properly. But in generally speaking, the brain, in order to get programmed, it needs repetition. In NLP, we say repetition is the mother of skills. I have trained NLP practitioner, I've done NLP practitioner training for like 95 times. But you know what? I have repeated the training, not while training, but repeated it myself, probably about 50, 60 times, maybe more. Okay. And I've done it because I know repetition is the mother of skill. I have trained other people and coached other people for like 36,000 hours. But I have practiced what I'm doing for more than 60,000 hours. So repetition, repetition, repetition. Know the fundamentals. Repetition is the mother of skills. Just think about this, by the way, the value of repetition. You and I, being Muslims, are ordered to pray 5 times a day. Does Allah need our prayers? Does it make any difference on Him if we pray or if we don't pray? Does He require our prayers? Then why do we have to pray? Why does He, whether it's a cold weather or a hot weather, even when we are traveling, we may shorten our prayers, but we have to pray. When we are sick, even we are unable to stand, we still have to pray. Why? What's the hikmah behind that? Repetition. I mean, wallahu alam, it's like, I don't know the hikmah, but repetition, repetition, repetition. It is His order, but the question is, any of His order, is it without hikmah? Why did He order us? We need prayers or He needs us? Does Allah need our prayers or do we need prayers ourselves? I believe we do it. And this is why we need repetition, 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 repetition. Okay. So brain needs repetition. Anything that you have learned, it's like, so for example, when you watch this, if you're attending it right now and you watch it again, the next time when you watch it, you will find, oh, I didn't notice. He also said this. Oh, there is this new insight. I many of my students say this, like they have taken my home study courses, and when this is, sir, I have been through your course 3 times, and every time I see there is something new. So there is nothing new in the program, but there's a new connection that your brain is making actually. And when your brain is making a new connection, it gives you a new understanding. It shows you another way of looking at things. It gives you, it enlightens you. It gives you more insights. So that's why you need repetition. Habits are formed through repetition, by the way. When you asked about this question about changing habits are a result of repetition. You will not find somebody who would say, I smoked once and then I got hooked. We also, I smoked the first time, it tasted so bad, I smelled bad, I coughed a lot. But then the person continued and they carried on, and that formed a habit. It's a bad habit, it's a harmful habit, but the habit was formed as a result of repetition. Repetition, anything that is repeated long enough will become ingrained in people. So if we have developed a bad habit, we can reverse that as well. We can develop a good habit as well. If we have developed the habit of shying away from people, we can develop the habit of showing up as well. If we have developed the habit of, of people pleasing, we can develop the habit of being truthful and being authentic as well. In my life coaching courses, I tell my students, be brutally honest. Because my job, your job, if you're working as a coach, is not to please people. Oh, what if people don't like me, and if they don't, it doesn't matter. It's not about people liking you. There's no way that everyone will like you. There will be people who will not like you just for the fact that you are still breathing. Okay. So far, so good. Is this all clear so far? You let me know. There's no specific research, Waqas. So Waqas is a question, and he says, which part of the brain has most influence on nerves? There's no specific part that, the specific research that answers that. So I don't know. So it's all clear, Alhamdulillah. It's like all clear from Jihad, dandruff card. It's all clear. Okay. So, do you want more? Do you want me to continue, or you're good for today? It's like, I understand एक घंटे से मैं बोले जा रहा हूँ. I just had a session with someone yesterday. It's like saying, just let me know when to stop. Okay. Because I just start speaking. There was a time in my life, again, it's like patterns. There was a time in my life when speaking for 5 minutes was like hell for me. Okay? Speaking in front of people was like, no way. It's like, I had that. But Alhamdulillah, I changed that. I programmed that myself that way. Now I was like, people have to say, okay, I'm done, please stop. Okay. Okay, so SV, whoever you are, please, your message is coming directly to me. You make sure that you send it so everyone can read. So, okay. Now, let's look at another, division. So far we are talking about the human brain and the human, this physical organ called brain and its different parts. Okay, the reptilian brain, the midbrain, and the frontal lobe. Let's look at some of the functions that happen in this brain. So, in order to understand, there are two, distinct words that we use. So we say conscious mind, basically referring to those things which we are doing it with some awareness. And then we have the unconscious mind, and some people may call it inner mind, some people may call it the subconscious mind, some people may call it something else. So those are two distinctions. So it's just to make things simpler, and because most people understand, I'll use the terms conscious and unconscious mind. Okay. So our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, or the functions that are performed within these two parts of our brain, are slightly different. So regarding our conscious mind can hold, according to a very old research, by the way, and I'm saying very old, this is like somewhere in probably late 60s or early 70s, there was a research which was done by Carl Pribram and Miller Granter and Carl Pribram, if I remember correctly, and if I'm pronouncing correctly as well. But the research was about how much information people can hold in their consciousness. So they found that the human consciousness, in your consciousness, you and I can hold. I believe it should be more now, but it's about 7 plus minus 2 bits of information. In other words, if I ask you to name different brands of soaps that are available, and I want you to try that right now. If I ask you to name different brands of soaps that are available, notice instantly you will come up with 5 or 9. Okay, so it's like 7 plus 2, that's 9, or 7 minus 2, that's 5. Okay, so instantly you may know 20 different names, but instantly that you will come up will be between this range, between 5 to 9. So 7 plus 2 minus 2, that's the range, that's the amount of data. If I ask you, so name different types of foods that people eat, you will find your instant response will be about like 5 to 9. So that's the general range. Okay, I believe this is the RAM that people have, but this RAM is increasing and can increase, I believe, and I believe it must be increasing with all of these technological advancements all over the world. Now, our conscious mind, it needs sequence. It does things step by step instructions. So it's like when you go out for groceries, you have, step number one, I'll first do this and do this and do this and do this. So whatever you're doing, it needs that step-by-step instructions. Okay. Our conscious mind is more logical. It works on logic. It asks those questions. Why? Why is this? Okay. And it operates when you're awake. When you're sleeping, your conscious mind is not there. It's like, so you respond to something. If you're sleeping and somebody's telling a joke, you don't start laughing at it because you're not conscious of it. Okay. So your conscious mind functions when you are awake. But when we are sleeping, it doesn't work. So the conscious mind works and does analysis. It's one of the things it does is it analyzes things. It does lots of analysis. Conscious mind is focused and it's more outcome oriented. It's goal oriented. Okay. Now there are several other functions. I'll not go into all of them. There are several others, but these are just to give you some idea. Now, on the other hand, what we consider or what we call the unconscious mind, it's that part of you, by the way, that beats your heart as you sleep, that digests your food as you sleep, that runs the blood in your body as you sleep. Your automatic nervous system. Okay, all of those things which are happening without any conscious, intervention from your part, without any conscious effort from your part. Imagine how difficult it would be if we had to breathe and beat our heart and digest our food consciously. So Allah Ta'ala has designed us that way. So the unconscious mind keeps on working. And this unconscious mind is programmable mind. So the conscious mind is the programmer. As I said, conscious mind is goal-oriented. So we consciously decide, okay, I have this bad habit, I want to leave this. So I have a goal, I have an outcome I want to achieve, or I want to develop this skill, this quality, I want to learn this specific thing. Now there's a goal that I'm pursuing. So we consciously decide. And then this unconscious that we are saying, that part of our brain is what we can program, is what we can condition to do things. That's what training does. Okay, so for example, if you learn to ride a bike, if you learn to drive a car, if you learn to operate a mobile phone, in the beginning, it wasn't that easy. But as you continue to do that, your brain stops operating, your consciousness stops operating and your muscle memory gets involved. So your body learns to do it. Okay. I've seen children, who use like computer or mobile phone, they move their fingers so fast. Can't do that. I've been using computer for like 30 years now, more than 30 years. I can't do that fast, but I've seen my son does it. He's so fast, mashallah. It's like, why? Because, his brain has been trained to do that. He has repeated it so many times. Okay. So the unconscious mind is the programmable mind. And that means if we learn something in the early years of our lives, we are not stuck with that. This idea that, your whole personality that was developed in your first 5 years will remain the same for the rest of your life. Well, it will change. You can reprogram it. Because if it can't change, then you're stuck with that. Don't we see a lot of brothers and sisters who, revert to Islam? They were programmed to be mushrik. But they changed. Change is possible. Okay. This idea that once you have learned something, then you're stuck with that. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm not saying it will be easy, but is it possible? Absolutely. The first condition to change is willingness. And that's again, that's a conscious decision. We consciously decide that I'm going to change this. Once you consciously make that decision to change, and then you start taking the necessary steps. Okay. And in order to take those steps, you have to know how your mind actually works. It's like if I decide to, fly an aeroplane and just sit in the cockpit, will I be able to fly because I have set a goal to fly an aeroplane? Okay. So just because I know how to drive a car, does that qualify me to fly an aeroplane as well? Well, if I was in movies, that's possible, but in real life, it won't work that way. So we need to understand how the brain works, okay? And then work on it and use those things. So the unconscious mind is a programmable mind. Our unconscious mind also organizes our perceptions. One of the principles in NLP is it doesn't matter what happens in your life, my life. What really matters is what you and I are thinking about it. It's not the events, it's our interpretation of those events. It's not the other person's behavior, it's our interpretation of that behavior that has any effect on us. So those interpretations is basically our thinking. Where are we interpreting? In our thinking. What is causing as a result of those interpretations? It's forming our perceptions. And those perceptions are happening because there are three processes that are happening inside our brains. Our brains distorts information, it deletes information, and it generalizes information. So distortion, deletion, and generalization are three functions, three things that are happening constantly in your brain, my brain. And as a result of that, we are forming perceptions of experiences. Okay. Now, those perceptions, if we have a positive perception of something, we have positive feelings about those things. And because we have positive feelings about those things, we act or we make decisions in a different way and we act in a different way. In simple terms, if we have a positive interpretation, we have a good mood. When we have good mood, we act differently. And we have bad mood, we act differently. It's that simple. Now, it appears to us that our mood is because of a situation that has happened. She did this, he did that, this happened and that happened. No, it was not because of this happened and that happened. It's the illusion, it's the delusion that we see. That whatever we are feeling is the result of the thinking and interpretations we are making of this or that. So unconscious mind, organizes that perception. And this is why it's very important that we train our minds to organize our perceptions in a way that helps us become better, that helps us grow. Whether we want to grow mentally, emotionally, financially, in our relationships and physically, it's those perceptions. So, for example, some of the common perceptions about health, it's like, I've heard these kind of statements like, "Budhapa khud ek bimari hai." Just think about this. If this is the case, then like every old person should be sick. That's not really the case. I remember one of my mother's uncle, actually, of course, he was like Nana for us. He was 75, 77, like this. And he used to go out and jog every day, like 2 miles to a block that was more than 2 miles probably. And he was in his 70s. And I remember we were very young and I was like, Nana, how do you do that? हमने खालिस घी खाया है अपनी जवानी में, हम वो चीज काम आ रही है. And I see, by the way, I see people 30 years old who can't, run in 10 feet. Okay. So why is that? Because, he had conditioned himself differently. He was an ex-army major, retired somewhere in 1960s. but he had continued with his practice. But if a person has this perception that Budhapa is, old age is sickness, if a person has that perception, their behavior will be aligned with that perception. It's not possible for us to have, one perception internally and other behavior externally. Because if that happens, probably there'll be a lot of internal fights within us. But our external behavior basically is a manifestation of what we are doing inside our heads. And this is why, the real richness is not how much money you have. It's the real richness is inside, how enriched you are from inside. So if a person is poor from inside, it doesn't matter how much money they have, or they'll still be poor. If a person is enriched from inside, it doesn't matter if they have no money, because it's not about money. It's about enrichment from inside. So your external world is a reflection of your internal. So if you want to change those external things, now remember this, Allah Ta'ala says this, surely Allah will not change the condition of a nation until they change what's within them. Okay, so changing the condition of the nation, Allah links that with himself. But the condition, before those conditions, those situations change, you have to change yourself first. Now, because when you change, and what do we want by that? We want conditions to change. Halat badlenge to hum badlenge. No, it doesn't work that way. Sad, but true. No matter what. I come across many people, it's like people enroll in my courses and, I'm surprised. Their first question is, will I get a certificate? Come on. You'll not, it's like, what will you do with a certificate? These things are about skills. It's like, I have this certificate I can show on Facebook and my social media. I have this certificate. I'm sorry. I see many people every day who have those certificates and know nothing. And they know it. Okay. But they have a certificate. And some people have many certificates and know nothing. Okay. There are 4 certificates from one training, 5 certificates from one training, and 0 knowledge, 0 skills. Okay. They just have this feeling of knowing something. Okay. So, it's about conditioning your brain. And so your unconscious mind, this or controls your perceptions. And the more enriched your internal perceptions are, the more enriched your external world will be. Your conscious mind, remember, it sets the direction, the goals for the unconscious mind. So your unconscious mind responds to symbols and it takes everything personally. This is the reason you find, the stories work. Have you ever had this experience, or have you met someone who watched a movie or a drama and they say, this is my life story? I've had people, it's like I share my experiences with people and or just share a story of some other client, and people I've received these kind of feedbacks from many people say, you were talking about me. I was not talking about you. Many of them I don't even know them. Forget about talking to them. Okay. But they say, you were talking about me. No, I was not talking about you. It was your brain, your unconscious mind connecting those dots and making you feel as if it's about you. Because that's what the unconscious mind does. It forms, it makes those connections. There is something that we call trans-derivational search. I'll not go into detail here, but that's the phenomenon. That's the process that happens inside. And like, we think, oh, he's talking about me or she's talking about me. This drama is about me. This movie is about me. No, it's not about you. But your brain shows you and makes you feel and think that it's about you. That's how the unconscious mind works. Okay. And it's a very powerful thing to understand, by the way, because through this, when you're working, if you're working as a coach, if you're working as an NLP practitioner, you can use stories to help people change their perceptions. It's like on one level, I want to change myself, improve myself. On the other level, I want to help other people as well. But if I tell them, okay, now, you do this, this is not the right thing, you change that. That's not going to help. How many times do we tell our children to stop playing on the video game and they do? So in order to do that, if we understand that we can direct people's minds through symbolic language and through stories, and we know what kind of stories, not every story, but what kind of stories and when to tell that story and how to tell that story, and what tweaks we need to make within that story, we can use stories, metaphors, examples to help people change. And this is the reason, like in my classes, people say, like, I don't know how. I'm just like, I am different. I've transformed. I've changed. Milton Erickson was considered the best hypnotist who lived during the last century. Somebody asked him, it's like, how do people change with you? He said something. He said, because they allowed me to tell them stories. Stories change people. So unconscious mind is programmable mind, and it can be programmed through stories. And yes, it needs repetition. It needs repetition. It needs repetition. It needs repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill. Okay. If you go to a gym for a day, if you exercise for a day, the next day you'll feel sore in your body. Every muscle that you worked out will be sore the next day. If you stop, nothing will happen. Your soreness will go in maybe a couple of days. But if you really want to develop your muscles, you need to practice. You need to exercise. Repetition, 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 repetition. Okay. And that's how we condition our brain. That's how we train our brain. Okay. So I think we are good for today. It's almost 90 minutes. I'll see if there are any questions. I'll answer them for you. Inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow. Same time, same link. I'll not be coming live on YouTube tomorrow. If you have not enrolled, you can enroll on my website. For this program, we'll be only on Zoom, only for today. We came on this, but from tomorrow, we will be only on Zoom. So if you have joined me on YouTube, thank you very much. If you want to continue with this, please enroll on my website. Go to first-institute.com. I can quickly share that with you if you want, if you have no idea about the website yet. So I'll quickly share the website. That's where you can enroll. If you have not enrolled, and those of you who have already enrolled on the website, you already know this. Okay, so you don't have to do anything. You already have the email, and that email you will find the link for Zoom, and I hope we will not have any problems. But those of you who have not enrolled, this is my website. This is first-institute.com, and you will see right on the first page, okay, this link. You go, you click here, learn more, and this is where you will find all the information as you move down. Okay, I just realized, by the way, somebody sent me a message. This timing is not correct. I'm sorry about that, but this is supposed to be 6 p.m. and probably this is supposed to be 7. I don't know. I may have overlooked this, so my mistake. So this is a free training. Okay, attending live is absolutely free. If you want to get recordings as well, then it's $27. Otherwise, you can simply enroll. It's free, absolutely free. There's no charge for attending it live. But if you want to have lifetime access to recording so you can repeat, then you can enroll. It's only $27. But you'll find it on my website. Just simply go to first-institute.com, and that's where you will have the access to to this course. So I'll not be coming live on YouTube tomorrow. So you make sure if you want to attend, be there, and it will be the same time that we start and the same link. So, okay, so let me just quickly check if there's any question. What's the difference between NLP and psychologists? NLP works, it's like the difference between Morse code and SMS or WhatsApp. That's the kind of difference. NLP works. How to respond to this situation? I don't know which situation you're referring to. I'm sorry, I missed. What's the source of those stories? Imagination? How to create such imagination? Well, there is a lot about this. There's not one source of stories. It depends on what stories and when and what you're telling. I use lots of stories in my trainings when I'm telling stories. I tell a lot of stories from Quran. I tell lot of stories from the lives of Sahaba. I tell lots of stories from my own personal experiences. Okay. And it doesn't matter, by the way. The story could be about Papa Bear and Baby Bear. It doesn't matter. Okay. You need to know why you are telling this story. Okay. What's the objective of telling this story? And thank you for joining. And then please do session in Urdu for Pakistanis. I have more than 500 videos for you Pakistanis in Urdu. Go and check my website. And then there are over 500 videos on my YouTube channel. Check it. How to respond to this situation when we see the similar story, the examples you shared about the dramas. Oh, realize that the response is coming from your own thinking. It's not that the drama is about you. If the drama, just think about this. If the drama is about you, do you like sing in the park when you are happy? Or do you dance on the road when you're happy? If you don't, then the drama isn't about you. Okay. It's just your mind, playing tricks on you. Okay, so Uruj Brother says, should we resign from our jobs if our bosses doesn't allow us to be honest by ourselves? Now, this is an interesting question, Uruj, but think about this. When people are making these kind of statements, what they don't realize is that they are disobeying Allah and trying to please a human being like them. And when they're trying to please a human being, in the back of their mind, they have this belief that my risk comes from my job and from my boss and not from Allah. So if I don't have a job, I will not have my risk. Think about this. And then it's so easy, by the way, for us to play the blame game rather than realizing that I'm not strong enough to say the truth. It's easier for us to say, oh, he makes me lie. He makes me do that. So it's easier to blame other people than to take responsibilities. But as long as you're blaming people, you are giving away your power to change. That's what Shaitan did, by the way. If you notice in Quran, in NLP, I teach something which is, a theme, a perspective. It's about, being the victor or the victim. Okay. Being on the cause side of equation or the victim side of the equation, the effect side of the equation. When Allah Ta'ala ordered angels to prostrate to Adam alayhi salam. Iblis didn't do that. He argued. And then he said, you have misguided me. He blamed Allah, Nauzubillah, for misguiding me. He said, Aghwaytani, that's the word you will find in Quran. You have misguided me. He played that blame game. On the other hand, when Adam alayhi salam made that mistake, even though Iblis had, misguided him, but Adam alayhi salam said, Rabbana zalamna anfusna. We made the mistake. He took the responsibility. Hazrat Yunus alayhi salam, in the belly of whale, he said, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. I am the wrongdoer. He didn't say, they did this. But when we are playing the blame game, notice who we are following. And in any area of your life, I have a number of sessions on this, on my YouTube channel. You'll find my podcast in the playlist. I've spoken about this quite a lot. This is such an important thing. If we understand, it's easy. We must stop playing the blame game. Is there a way to change those old programs and patterns? Absolutely. That's what we are doing here. Then many thanks. Sure, you're welcome. And sir, already registered on website, but was unable to get the meetings. So, okay. My name is Muhammad Iqbal. Okay, attended entire session. Found it helpful. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. Welcome. I'm reading comments on YouTube, by the way. I've read a bunch of books in the past, and what to say when talking to yourself. That's Dr. Shed Hamstetter's book, right? I read it about like maybe 30 years ago. Power of Subconscious Mind. Yeah, that is also a good book. I'm forgetting the name of the author. Just many years ago I read. And found one of the self-hypnosis books, found on the effective, but dropped as I wasn't sure. Okay. I've read hundreds of books on these things. I'm addicted to learning. I spend every day like about 1 hour, 90 minutes on learning something. I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm watching something. I'm just addicted to learning. So, and repetition is the mother of skill. And the more you know, the more you find how little you actually know. So I have this. I'm stuck in that. Can anybody help? So I signed up your channel, by the way. I should thank you very much. Jazakallah. Yes, there are many videos. You'll find them and you'll find them useful. Some of my courses, I've uploaded some of the videos from my courses, and you can check them on my YouTube channel. I have, as I said, more than like 575 videos, and if you watch them, there's a lot. Alhamdulillah, people do give me a lot of feedback about those things, how they find it beneficial for them. Abid Munir, no, not at all. I have not forgotten you at all. I even remember the day when you sent me a message and saying, "Sir, aap ye nahi teach kar rahe." What are you talking about? I don't generally forget people easily, Abid. I may not remember your name, but if I see your face, I can tell you exactly what discussion we had the last time we met. Alhamdulillah. Even after 20 years, Alhamdulillah, it's like, that's just Allah's blessing. What to do if we regret about something? Maybe we'll talk about that in a later session. So like on third day, we'll talk about that. Okay, everyone. So I don't see other questions here. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue tomorrow. This is it from me for today. Those of you who have purchased the recording, I will upload it as soon as I can. And for today's session, it will be on YouTube. And from tomorrow, it will be only on my website. Anyone who's still wants to get the recording of these 3 sessions, you can buy that from my website. And It will be just $27. You can even pay in Pakistan if you want. Let me know. Just send me a text message on or WhatsApp, and I'll tell you where you can pay if you want to get recording for these 3 sessions. And then you can pay in Pakistan, and you'll get lifetime access to these recordings, and then you can repeat these things. Okay. Remember, repetition is good. It's up to you. There's no. It's if you think that on one sitting you've got what you want, perfectly okay. If you want to have more repetition, it's up to you. You can get that. So thank you very much.